Look up. Sun. Solar power. Right? This is a trend that's starting in the US right now, and people are investing in it. They're paying $2,000 to $3,000 to put solar panels on the roofs of the homes. So they eliminate the electricity bill that costs them $20 to $50 in the home per month, and putting $2,000 to $3,000 on top. In the winter time, when your electricity bills, most people get up to $100, $200, $300 a month, right? That's those $2,000 to $3,000 of solar panels take care of that. So the payback period is relatively short. At the individual level, you can always, instead of buying generators, which is a very short-term solution, generators break down, fuel generators go up, right? So once you go into solar cells, the technology is consistent enough that you don't need to invest anymore, right? It's not like you're gonna, like in the US, there's a lot of weather problems, so that we get hail when it rains, like upstairs on the clouds, it freezes, there's big ice balls that come down. You don't have that here. It doesn't get that cold. Snow and ice is not an issue. Solar cells should be easily doable at the individual small community level. So instead of complaining about it, figure out a way to do solar cells. Solar cells to charge your phone, solar cells to keep your internet running, solar cells for education. You can take care of a lot of that on your own, right? So sometimes I see people blaming somebody else too often, kind of like what you started with. Instead of blaming, see what can I do? How do I research this in a different way so that I can solve the problem? I don't have to rely on the government. I don't need them. Technology exists today. Power generation, different forms of power generation. Here, depending on the day, there's also wind, but wind is not as efficient as solar. One of the major challenges in the education in Ghana specifically, you were originally a colonial state of England, right? They gave you an education system that keeps you behind, right? So if you look at how education is done as a system, it keeps you backwards. So if you look at all the textbooks, how old are the textbooks that you have?
Some 10 years.
Huh? Some 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
15 years, right? Most of that stuff doesn't apply today. Even in the Western world where it was published, it doesn't apply today, right? That keeps you behind, okay? Your knowledge has to be up to date, right? In my school, I've moved away from textbooks completely as much as possible, okay? Everybody learns on research journal articles within the last 5 years. Last 5 years, all electronic journal articles. So it's recent research that they're learning about that applies to their country, not a generic textbook from somewhere else, and even those people won't use it. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is how people teach. When most people come to lectures, you have the term lecture, right? That's the worst insult to some extent, for me, from my perspective. Okay, when people purely lecture. Right? Are you learning when people's lecturing? There's so much science behind educational psychology. For me, in order to be an effective university, every single faculty member should become an expert in educational psychology. Educational psychology is the study of how the human brain learns and absorbs information. Keep it, use it. If you learn a textbook on accounting and you don't use it, and you forget about it, what good is it after all the money and the time you spent on it? The method of lecturing and what you do in most of your classrooms, from what I've seen, is not an effective way to teach. People will remember it to start with, and they can't apply it effectively. Right? So if you get the faculty members, and I do a lot of different faculty development for various countries, when you do faculty development, you teach faculty to stop talking so much. Get them to engage the students and challenge them from their perspective. That's one of the key foundations of how people can learn and make classroom more interesting. But as lecturers, I'm sure some of you, you're really sick and tired of grading the same paper over the same case of 20 students or 50 students, right? Right? And you have cases on Walmart or whatever companies you have. Those are boring as heck to read, right? Why do that? The cases don't have any relevance to Ghana to start with. Harvard, wherever they came from, they're out there. They don't apply. And even if you do it right, how do you know if it's right or wrong? You can't apply it, right? practically they're worthless, right? Whenever I look at education, the students are the best people to create the cases. Okay, so where do you work? You're a student. Do you work? Not at all. Okay, you have a family. Yeah. So whatever you're learning, you can apply it to the family dynamics, right? If you teach you accounting, accounting happens in a family environment. If you're teaching leadership, leadership happens in a family environment. If you're teaching marketing, how many kids, how many brothers and sisters do you have? 3. Where are you? Are you oldest, youngest, middle? You're the last one. Okay, so being the baby, you're always the last, right? If you're learning marketing principles, marketing yourself is always number 1, right? It's part of marketing the company, same principles. But you can teach him how to market himself to his parents, to his brothers and sisters, so that priority of the youngest becomes number 1, right? Whatever you're learning, the cases come from the students. If you're working, are you working somewhere? Are you working somewhere? Where are you working at? Well, for yourself, you have your own business. Okay? So whatever he's learning, let his business be the case. And his lectures, that becomes so much more interesting to read because you're actually dealing with the real world problems. Right? So you have to start applying what you're learning specifically to the students. So the students come up with the cases, they apply your theories, and then they go do it. And the grading system is another issue. The grades right now, currently, usually from the lecturer, right? So one person gets to determine how good everybody else is. One of the big things that I see in Ghana and primarily a lot of the African nations is the whole yes sir mentality. Everybody says yes sir, right? Now, what's the contextual message that it sends? If you say yes sir to somebody. You're submissive.
Yes.
Somebody's above you. Right? Does that happen in the West when you see these Europeans or Americans come? They see people as equals, right? Part of the grading system drives people in a way that they start seeing hierarchy automatically, even when there's no hierarchy exists. Just because you see a white person or somebody else, that becomes a yes sir. Why? But the hierarchy has to change. Learning cannot be in a hierarchical format for people to move forward. You cannot see yourself as below somebody and innovate, right? So change the grading system so that the professor, the lecturer, has an equal footing with the student. So that in that forum, and I'm sure you're going to kill me for these things, but in the ideal world, right, in the system that I'm actually developing without technology to support it, the grade of a student for any class is not based on the professor or the lecturer. The lecturer has maybe 50% or 40%. Who else should have input? The student themselves. About, 12 years ago, I did a research project on what is the value difference between the professor's review of the student's work and the student's review of their own work. Guess what I found out? The student's evaluation of their own work was always lower than what the professor said the work is. Always. The only qualifier was as long as it's not a final grade. Right? Because then there's scholarships and money and other things involved. But each assignment, students will evaluate themselves much tougher than the faculty will. So that says something about self-evaluation. But even more importantly, learning is not in an isolated environment. The design of learning currently is in an isolated environment. You're not connected to the real world. What if we took that out to the real world? Whatever the grading system is, whatever you apply, your family members should know. They should have input. Your business colleagues, your partners, your friends, your churches, whatever other aspects, you have to design it in a way that the holistic system as a whole, learning becomes very connected. So they have an input into your grade. So that you move the growth together. Because in most families, if you're the person going to college and like your brothers and sisters may not be, well guess what? You get too high up and what happens to the rest of your family? They either really love you and adore you, or your brothers will drive you back down. And I've seen this in even successful companies, whether it's Western world, regardless of wherever, the jealousy factor always comes in. I've had executives call like coaching. How many of you believe coaching works? Okay, very limited impact. Okay, because if you're really successful with somebody, that one person grows really fast. Guess what happens to the environment? Their business partners, their wives, their kids, all start pulling them down. So education can be transformed in a way that moves everybody along with you. So you share your knowledge. We all understand the more we teach, the more we learn, right? So why not teach as the students? You become the teachers of your environment. Wherever you grow up from, whatever you learn, hey, little brother, hey, mom, look what I learned today. Share that with them. And this is what I'm supposed to apply at the home. How I deal with you, how to build trust, how to build respect, all of that gets embedded into your environment. So everybody grows. And from a marketing perspective, which he loves, it becomes easy. Because once you take the learning to a community level, then guess what? Anybody that sees the student growing and pulling the whole community forward, they all want to come and learn. Easily done. So the whole system can change. Accreditation people don't really understand how education can move. They enforce what is currently done. They enforce what the British have given you, which is what keeps you behind. So you have to be careful how you do it on the political side, so that the accreditation don't. Right? Okay. But for the most part, in theory, accreditation should care about the outcomes, learning outcomes. If you're achieving your learning outcomes. So as long as you show results, they're not going to care how